Group psychology compared to individual psychology can have a lot of negative effects. So one is conformity and loss of individual autonomy. So even if you find that there are people who recognize that you're being treated unfairly in the group, it is possible that they will be unlikely to speak up in fear of the consequences. Now, this actually happened with my case. So when I was terminated from my orthopedic surgery residency in 2012, there was a man in the room. He was one of the people who would vote on it. And he told me later, years later, that he knew what was happening, but he was afraid to speak up. Now, he eventually rose to the level of U.S. Army Graduate Medical Education Chief. So he's the head of all residencies all over the U.S. Army now. And he said that part of his reason for doing that was because of what he witnessed that day. He apologized to me for not being strong enough to be different, to speak up. He even told General Crossland, the 3-star general who changed the rules after my first video. He told her that this happened. And he is the man who's responsible for letting me give the presentation that day that was part of my first video. So I would say that he more than redeemed himself. But he is an example of how groupthink, how resisting, people sometimes don't want to stand against the group, and so they'll let bad things happen. Groups prioritize harmony and consensus above critical evaluation. It's easier to agree that this one resident over here, this black boy, is just not good at his job. He's a bad doctor, rather than speaking up and saying, maybe we all have a problem. Maybe we are all subjecting him to unfair bias. This motivates people to remain blind to the group's mistreatment of anyone. I used to always say, listen, what are they going to do? Tear up the whole system? Question everything every single time because one captain says he's being mistreated and maybe he even is? Or do they just fire that captain and move on? Which one takes less energy? Status quo will always take less energy, and so that's what group think or the group effect encourages.